You're listening to a special edition of We Get Work, recorded live from Workplace Horizons 2025 in New York City, Jackson Lewis's annual labor and employment law conference. Over 500 representatives from 260 companies gathered together to share valuable insights and best practices on workplace law issues impacting their business today. Here's your personal invitation to get the insights from the conference delivered directly to you. We'll see you in 2026. Good afternoon, gentlemen, and welcome to the We Get Work podcast, live from Workplace Horizons 2025. In the room, in the studio with me this afternoon, I have Damon Silver, principal in our New York City office, and Jason Gavasian, office managing principal of the Berkeley Heights office of Jackson Lewis. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alicia.
Just take a minute, if you would, for me, and tell me a little bit about your practice and the kinds of issues that your clients are facing here in 2025. Damon, we'll start with you.
Sure. Thanks. At its core, what our privacy data and cybersecurity group does is we help our clients to handle their data safely. And what that means in practice is that we work with them to prevent and respond to data breaches. We help them comply with the various different data privacy and security laws they may be subject to. And then increasingly, we help them when they face various types of claims and litigation, including those related to data breaches, their use of website tracking technologies, and their use of biometric information.
Jason?
Yeah, very much along the same lines. My practice primarily focuses now on litigation, but I still do a ton of advice and counsel work for clients on privacy data security issues. So again, right now we're seeing a big influx of litigation that's really driving the majority of my practice.
Thank you. So the title of your presentation today was Amidst Explosion in Data Privacy and Security Litigation, How Do We Prevent and Defend and Create Best Practices? So Jason, can you tell us a little bit about what you covered in your session here at Workplace Horizons today?
Yeah, so we tried to run the full gamut for our clients. We talked to them a lot about what types of litigation we're currently seeing. As Damon mentioned, data breach litigation, California Invasion of Privacy Act claims related to website tracking, as well as Biometric Information Privacy Act and Genetic Information Privacy Act claims. We also talked to them about some common defenses, ways that they can ultimately, hopefully, win a lawsuit or position themselves for a good settlement, as well as some steps that they can take on the proactive side to avoid litigation in the first place.
So with all of those topics and issues to cover, how did you decide what to include here in your presentation? Like, what are your clients talking to you about, back in the office?
Yeah, litigation in general was something of a sideshow in the data privacy and security space up until somewhat recently. It's only been the last few years that litigation has become the focus for our clients. When we go to conferences, it's increasingly what's being talked about on panels. It's increasingly what a lot of members of our team are spending their time on. And there's been a couple of different reasons for that. One of which is that for a long time after data breaches occurred, unless it was a really significant breach, unless it was tens of millions of people perhaps that were impacted, we oftentimes did not see litigation. A lot of the breach notification laws do not have private rights of action, and the plaintiffs' firms did not see an opportunity to bring a lot of litigation in this area. That has completely changed. If you look at the per year numbers going back to, I think, 2022, it's basically doubling several years in a row, and then we're seeing increases of several hundred cases from last year to this year. And as a result, many more of our clients are having to spend a lot more of their time, energy, and money thinking about how to prevent and respond to these types of claims. Another area that's really blown up in recent years on the litigation front is litigation related to the use of website tracking technologies like cookies and pixels. Again, the plaintiff's firm has seen an opportunity, relying on laws that have been around forever. They have repurposed those laws. They have found ways to bring claims that are pretty likely to survive a motion to dismiss. And as a result, it has been a very fruitful area for the plaintiff's bar, and we anticipate it will continue to be that way for a while.
So, Jason, Damon just mentioned the plaintiff's bar. Is that the root cause of this change, or are there other factors contributing to this increase in litigation? And during your presentation, what issues really resonated with our attendees when you discussed them?
So I do think that the plaintiff's bar is having a big impact on the number of claims that are filed or threatened claims that are sent to clients as far as an attorney demand letter. I think a big part of that from the plaintiff's bar is that they've found a number of statutes that have statutory damages and may make it an easier sell for them to get a good settlement or to ultimately win the day at a trial or before a court. In addition to that, clients are really collecting a significant amount of data in today's day and age, and the technologies that they continue to implement at the organizational level are only going to increase that amount. In addition, I think all of us are becoming more and more conscious of the types of privacy concerns that we might have and when our data or our data collection is occurring, and that the potential risk that may arise when anybody's collecting our data and not ultimately safeguarding it.
Thanks, Jason. Damon, what would you say, given all of the change and all of the issues and how much more aware we are of data and how much more reliant we've become on data, what would you say are some of the key takeaways you can share not only with the folks listening to this podcast, but that you spoke about during your presentation?
Absolutely. So I would say there are two intertwined key takeaways. The first is that you really do need to take the steps necessary to get an understanding of what data you're collecting, who that data relates to, how you're using it, where you're storing it, how long you're keeping it. And there are processes for doing that. They can be a little bit onerous, but there's a process called data mapping. There are data security risk assessments. And if you do those on a regular basis, you're going to have a much better sense of what your data risk profile looks like, what the areas that you need to focus on are. And then related to that, once you have that information, you really need to think about how you're going to operationalize it. And one of the key ways you'll likely want to operationalize it is through the concept of data minimization. You're going to want to take a look at whether there are repositories of data that have data that no one is interacting with. It's not serving any value to the organization, but nevertheless, it's sitting around waiting to potentially be breached or misused by someone at your organization. And based on that assessment, there may be steps you can take. You may be able to archive or purge that data. You may be able to create subfolders in your major data repositories so that you can put access controls on what certain categories of employees are able to access. None of those steps, I wouldn't say, are easy, but they're also not as complicated as I think many people suppose they may be, and they really do make a huge difference.
So Jason, how can Jackson Lewis help the organizations deal with the issues that Damon just mentioned?
So obviously on the litigation front, we can serve as defense counsel, and we are serving as defense counsel for hundreds of our clients in this space. But in addition to that, we can also help you take some proactive steps, whether that's on the compliance side or even identifying risks that we might see arise in a litigation and the claims that arise in a litigation and how clients can ultimately address those to avoid any potential threats of a claim in the future.
Jason, Damon, thank you so much for being here in the studio with us this afternoon, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thanks,
you, Felicia.
Thank you for listening to Jackson Lewis's podcast, We Get Work. Focused solely on workplace issues, it is our job to help employers develop proactive strategies, strong policies, and business-oriented solutions to cultivate a workforce that is engaged and stable. Please tune into our next program, where we will continue to tell you not only what's legal, but what is effective. We Get Work is available to stream and subscribe on your streaming platform of choice, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. For more information on today's topic, our presenters, and other Jackson Lewis resources, visit jacksonlewis.com. As a reminder, this material is provided for informational purposes only. It is not intended to constitute legal advice, nor does it create a client-lawyer relationship between Jackson Lewis and any recipient.